Thank you for staying with us. It's almost 1 year since the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASUU, suspended its nationwide strike. Now that the union is warming up to resume the industrial action, the decision was taken at the end of its National Executive Council meeting in Abuja, where they gave the federal government 3 weeks to implement their demands or risk fresh round of industrial action. GKB, they've been warning. Yeah. They've been warning, we have this coming now, and this is the opportunity for the federal government to, now that these guys are giving notice of strike, instead of after the strike, we should be calling them to the round table. This is not the time to I
think the federal government is a creation of habits. They don't take these threats seriously until the strike is actually called. And we are maybe 2-3 months into the strike. Because they have 1 year to redeem the pledge that they make to the university teachers. And they did absolutely nothing. And that to me is the danger that we face as a nation. Because we seem to only react when we are pushed against the wall. These demands are not out of this world, as you know. But most of them have been agreed to by the federal government, including the way they are meant to be paid and other areas they are supposed to work on. But somehow, the Ministry of Labour, the Ministry of Education, and then whatever stakeholders remain within the context of the negotiation have refused to even move forward in implementing this thing. Because what the teachers are saying is not that they've done about 50% and they're giving them notice for 50. No, they did practically nothing in the last 1 year that can be considered as something done in good faith. And that to me is the danger on why this will happen now.
What are they doing? Is it that the government is so insensitive, or they don't have stakes in these universities, their children, their wards, they are not, attending this university, that you have to leave them for a long time, and it is when they go on strike that we now start talking about meeting on the round table?
I think much depends on the importance we place on education. For most developed countries, education is almost number one, because that will determine the future of every other thing, whether it's industrial takeoff, whether it's quality of democracy, we want to have quality of life. But when you look at the budget we have been, the percentage of budget that we put into education, most of the time 5%, 10%, which is that far below
even if global, that is implemented.
Yeah, the global average, which is supposed to have between 15 to 20%. So I think the issues that ASUU continues to raise, they are very fundamental issues. It's not about those lecturers. It's about the future of the country. And out of the 8 demands that ASUU came up with, only 2 of them have been met, on non-salaries and then setting up of a visitation panel to federal government universities. There are the other 6 demands, are still the trash bin. And I think it's not a proof of responsibility when you sign an agreement with the government. In fact, since 2013, it's been on and on and on. And then the government continues to sign an MOU, and then the government fails to meet its own part of the bargain. I think it's quite unfair, and I hope the government will recognize the importance, of education. That is about building the future of ourselves, providing security, human and economic security for all of us. If the universities are grounded, there's no way you can talk of development in any way.
Jide, as a result of COVID-19, last year we even have a situation by universities that are even rationing the admission, as in between the set of last year and this year. And if ASUU, if they should go on strike now, you will know the spiral effects. You can imagine the kind of effects that it will have on the entire education sector.
Yes, and that's not what we want to see. I'm really disappointed that this issue has dragged on for this long. I really don't understand why government after government, we've not been able to resolve an issue that has lingered since the year 2009. The agreement with ASUU was originally signed in the year 2009, and nearly all of those issues have still not been addressed. For example, when ASUU kicked against the idea of using the IPPIS payment platform in the universities, ASUU opposed it, and what the government said was that ASUU should go and ASUU should come up with an alternative. And they got the eggheads within ASUU to design a new software that can replace the IPPIS, because the IPPIS is not really flexible for the university system. It's not flexible at all. And then they came up with the University Transparency Accountability Solution, UTAS. But after they came up with UTAS, government refused to take UTAS on board. But you were the one who said they should go ahead and create something that can be an alternative to IPPIS. Because the way it is now, if you like, as you are a vice chancellor, you cannot hire an individual because of the IPPIS system. You can't hire an individual because it won't be captured. So if you choose to hire a staff, then you should be ready to pay the wages of that staff, which means that the universities that have all along been used to this sabbatical system, whereby academics will come from outside of our country to come and lecture in this place as a way of deepening research and all that, we would not be able to continue along that line because the IPPIS does not have any provision for them. Lecturers thrive on the idea of being visiting lecturers here and there. Some of them go to the US. Some of them, the current vice chancellor of the Federal University Lokoja worked in the US for years. You know, but the IPPI system ensures that you can only earn salary in one place. So these guys are saying, no, let's have something more flexible that will allow for the culture to continue. But we are reluctant to yield to that demand. And of course, we also have the government agreed that it will continue to renegotiate the demands in the 2009 MOU. But as we speak now, it's not been implemented. The same government that set up the Musalin Jibrin committee. Musalin Jibrin used to be the top man at the AUC. You set up his committee. He came up with his findings, and you refused to implement. I mean, it's very frustrating. We need to do something about decaying infrastructure in our universities. For some of the universities, like UNILAG, that over the years have fantastic alumni, people who have so much money, who even if you bring them together, they can build a brand new university because they have been successful. They all over the world, you have a lot of them. They can even manage to an extent. But we've seen clearly that there is decaying infrastructure in most of our universities. And also is saying, let's have a system whereby every year, this is how much you release for the purpose of freshening up infrastructure in the universities. This demand has still not been met. Not to talk of the very, we can say issue of end allowance is something that is personal to academic staff. But how about those demands that are meant to ensure that the public university system does not collapse. How many big people are putting their children in public universities now? It is because they can see that things have literally, totally collapsed in the public universities, and we are not doing anything about it. So they cannot call off a strike since December last year, and up till now, the issues that caused them to call us to suspend the strike have still not been addressed. After more than 10 months, it's just perplexing.
You talked about this infrastructural deficit that we have all across.
All across.
Yes. And yesterday we were even talking about that knack for the state government and the federal government to have federal university and state university across the 36 states, despite the fact that some states don't have the capacity actually to fund universities effectively. You have states like, I don't want to mention states, but you have like 3 universities. How do you want to run that effectively? How do you want them to get the best of infrastructure? Not
only states, even the federal government is guilty of ignoring the infrastructural decay in already existing universities and trying to build new ones, including new ones for the military. Don't forget, it's not only civilian universities that we are building while ignoring others. So we have a problem of contextual inability
see the number of students
to do whatever we want. So what we need to do right now, as you are aware, is the fact that if you cannot really fund education, let it go to the private sector. Because it's obvious that we are not interested in the future of our youth. We assume that we have enough private universities or we have enough money to send students abroad so that we have enough for them to come back and take over. But you and I know that it will never be enough because people qualifying for university admission every year quadruple in the last 10 years. That means if you are expecting 3 million people or 300,000 students in 2010, by now we are looking at 750,000 applicants for the same slots. And the facilities are not improving. They remain consistently bad. Don't forget we have pictures of university theaters where people are sitting on the floor, where people are standing to take lectures, where people are hanging onto the frames of the windows. And yet, the same government will go ahead and approve new federal universities for states. I don't even want to talk about states or universities they cannot cater for. Some are having universities of technology, some are building universities along the express, and the only thing you see there is the signboard. Like I said, I don't want to mention
in terms of building, in terms of they have vast land to occupy, but in terms of real physical infrastructure,
it's dangerous.
These guys are not just asking for their own emolument and everything. What they are asking for something that will be beneficial to the whole
in the
sector.
long run.
Yeah. And they've been happy on this, and I'm sure the federal government is broke right now to meet this demand. Can they meet all this demand, or they should start?
The federal government may be broke, but if the federal government considers an issue a top priority, the federal government will be compelled to look for money to fund such a project. I think the problem is, like when you are talking about renovation of National Assembly, the government will bring out the money from wherever the money is. So I think the problem is that we don't, place emphasis on public institutions, probably because most people in government, their children are no longer in public schools. So I think, for instance, they are talking about revitalization funds. It's key because the industrial development of a country, the political economy of a country, whether a country is developed or developing or underdeveloped, depends on the quality of the universities that you have or the schools that you have. So I think if the federal government really places emphasis on education, they can raise those funds. Don't forget that the first generation universities were managed by regions. Yeah. If up to 1976, Ahmadu Bello, UNN, and they were of best, of best quality. If you attended, UNN, by the time you finish your medical school, people are already looking at for you abroad. In your final year, UAC and all that, they are already shopping for. In fact, they will bring a helicopter shell to take for interviews from universities. So any university in Nigeria in the 70s and 60s, UNN, IFE, and they could compete with any university, any place in the world, anywhere in the world. But what has happened is that, we have put education into the back burner. We no longer have respect for, the need for us to fund education. If we are really determined, we should know that education should be of top priority, and we should look for the money to fund it.
Julie, talking in terms of we're not even projecting ahead to look at, there was a time the number of people that will sit every year for the Joint Admission Matriculation Board exam, in this country, we had like 35,000, 40,000. Today, over 2 million students, at the same time, sitting for this exam, and most of them will be stranded at the end of the day, because I don't know the number of universities we have that can accommodate over 2 million applicants.
And that's why we have to save the public universities from collapse. The people in government would rather watch these public universities continue to decay, so that people will lose interest in them, people will lose confidence in them, while private universities that they continue to license every year, owned by their friends and family members, will continue to thrive. That is not what we want to see. In our continent of Africa, the universities that are thriving, the universities that are the best on the continent remain the public universities in Uganda, in South Africa, Tanzania, in Ghana.
Yeah.
Yes, it's the public universities. It's the public universities. So, and if we are saying that, the future knowledge economy is what will shape the future, the services economy is what will shape the future. It is in the universities as centers of excellence that you can produce the people who will take us into that next frontier. Look at California.
I think
Look at California.
Yeah.
What California is doing with, globally now, it is the brains of people that California thrives upon. It's not as if it has got mineral resources and all that. So we just need to talk to our government to change this attitude. Why should ASUU be meeting consistently with the Minister of Labor and nothing will be achieved? What is the essence of those meetings? It's frustrating. And I'm happy that even ASUU had a few words for vice chancellors. But these vice chancellors, according to ASUU, are simply selling honorary degrees just for personal and immediate gain.
Honorary professorships.
They need to come together. Yeah, they need to come together to save the university system. Because even after you've worked as a VC, a lot of you will still go back to a university like UI, for example, to lecture. So you need to join your colleagues to save the system from collapse.
Okay,
if we really want to fund universities, we can do it.
I have Abubakar calling from Kaduna State. Thank you for staying with us, Abubakar.
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening.
Mr. Ayo.
Good evening.
And JTV and Baba today through Skype.
Yes.
The issue of our university, most of the time they used to go to strike there and there. And I want to share more light on the issue of IPPIS. The IPPIS, I thought university they have their financial autonomy, which they other diplomas program or postgraduate program that they earn money through that. Why not the university finance the other lecturer, the visiting lecturer that they have with the other money. So the permanent staff in the university will be enrolled through the IPTI. While if any university wants to invite a visiting lecturer, then they will pay that visiting lecturer with that financial autonomy that the university has.
Thank you, Abubakar.
Through the postgraduate and undergraduate.
Thank you for your contribution. So, GKB now, we can always aggregate it now and talk about a stitch in time, 6-9.
Yeah.
We should not go into another round of strike for the better part of year 2000. 2000, was it 2000, yes?
2009 till now is about 11 years.
Yes, 2000. No, 2020.
Okay.
That's last year.
Yeah.
December.
The ASUU, they were on strike all through that year.
Sure.
And our students forfeited
Oh, yeah.
the whole academic year. And we should not be talking about another protracted strike now.
No, I don't know how these people sleep at night, really. When you know that young men who has a future will spend 5, 6, 7, 8 years pursuing a 4-year course. It's criminal. And because in some countries, the only industry they have is education. That's what they rely on. In Boston, Massachusetts, MIT is the greatest honor of the state. People come in and name universities for you that have been in existence for 600, 700 years. They are all public universities.
Even within Boston alone, you know the number of universities.
I know.
You have Harvard, you have MIT,
All
you
those
have Boston
colleges.
University, you have Massachusetts University.
It's amazing that we will say we are a developing country and will treat public education with such levity. It's a criminal endeavor of the highest order, because without room for our young men to learn and contribute to society, they will bring the society down. That's why we are going through what we are going through, because an educated populace cannot be brainwashed to become foot soldiers.
Become bandits.
Yeah, bandits and terrorists, because you have already been trained to think. Essence of education is for you to be able to think. That's the essence. And once you can think, you cannot be used as a kind of folder for anybody's ambition.
All right.